Alex Steed, a freelance journalist, activist, and online community management consultant based in Boston and Portland, Maine. Welcome.
Thank you.
And I understand you recently returned from Millennials Changing America, a research tour in which you traveled across the country speaking with millennials.
That's true.
So my first question is, can you define, or how would you define the term millennial activist?
Okay, well, I stole the term from Alison Fine, who is, you're obviously familiar with, in that she's working with the Social Citizens Initiative in some cerebral way. And so a millennial activist would be, by her definition and by the definition that I've co-opted, someone who is within the millennial age range, so between 15 and 25 or 15 and 29, depending on which definition you're using, and is an activist. So, someone who stands for a cause in one way or another, but the way that they differ from activists, maybe from Gen X or from the baby boomers, is that they are more digitally fluent than than previous generations. So a large part of not only their awareness but of their action is based on the internet or based on modern communication.
Okay. Are there other hallmarks of their activism that you feel differentiate them from previous generations?
Well, critics, I think, would say that they're more passive, more passive in sort of a face-to-face, old school protesty way. I wouldn't say that means that they're more passive. I would say that it means that their actions just look different. But they're much more hyper-connected and much more organized than I think people were in the past, or people have been able to be in the past.
Okay, and just a quick clarification question. Do the term millennial and Gen Y
yes,
use pretty interchangeable?
It's the same. It's the same thing.
Good to know.
Gen Y changing America was a little difficult to work with. So.
Okay, well, can you tell us a bit about Millennials Changing America? Sort of what were the goals, how you came up with the idea?
Yeah, it came from, I work in, as you said, online community management. So I figure out how people are using the internet to either reach out to large communities or organize or make their nonprofit make more money, or make their nonprofit find more volunteers to work at nonprofits or for particular causes. So I go to a lot of conferences where a lot of people were talking about what the millennials are capable of and what young people are doing and what activism looks like now. And I noticed a lot of people just being like, yeah, this is happening. Like this is how it is, and this is the new way. And I've always been a little more sort of critical than just accepting this. So I wanted to go and see it for myself and see what it looked like. I was really influenced by Morley Winograd and Michael Hayes' series of essays about the election, and then their book called Millennial Makeover, which was about sort of the generational paradigms shift that led to the millennial generation and what that means in the context of technological fluency and in the context of getting stuff done either in Washington or around the world.
Mm-hmm.
So between that and then between being critical of all this stuff that I was hearing, I wanted to go out and see it face to face, and not only see it, but have millennials offer a definition of who they are themselves. Because up until very recently, the only people who were talking about millennials were marketers for the most part, and 50 or 60 something political scientists. And as interesting as that is, I think it's important. I think narrative is really important, and self-definition is really important.
Okay. And what kind of support, I guess financial and otherwise, did you have behind you for this project? Who else
Sure.
was interested in learning from this research?
Yeah, that was a three. There were actually four parties. The first, the Case Foundation was extremely helpful in offering a matching grant for the amount of one-on-one donations that I could raise online, or person-to-person donations I could raise online. So there's the Case Foundation, people who gave online, which were people I didn't know, people I did know, family and friends, The third wave were sponsors. So it was the Points, based out of Chicago, Change.org, Net Squared, which is a company that I work for doing research for, and or they're a nonprofit, excuse me, and Reply for All. And then the fourth was Out of Pocket. So I was very interested in making it happen.
Right. So where did you travel, and how did you establish your itinerary? Was it pretty finite, or was it flexible?
It was meant to be really finite. I established it. Well, I guess ultimately Eisenhower established where I was going, because I went just basically where the modern highway system went ultimately.
Okay.
So I basically traveled from Boston and then up north through the Badlands, and down along the west coast, and then back through the south, and back up to here I am in Washington D.C., and I'm about to head back to Boston. There were a lot of blips as far as my scheduling goes. I think I knew how massive the United States was, but I don't think I really knew how massive the United States was. And I was
blame that on Eisenhower.
Yeah,
too.
I blame that's all Eisenhower. I go right back to Jackson on that one. So it was pretty flexible. It got to a point where very initially I was like, well, I'm going to go to this place, and I know that this person is doing this. It represents a really interesting cross section of what's going on in this geography, and then I budgeted large and sort of got what I got. So I ended up having to tailor a lot of that, and then just be like, I'm going to this location, I'm going to put the word out, and then people will be in touch, and we'll go from there. And that's how it ultimately ended up happening.
So did you have specific appointments with people, or was it a mix of
Yeah,
appointments?
it was a mix of, when I first when the word got out that I was doing this, upwards of 500 people / organizations got in touch with me and were like, I would like to talk about what I do. I would really like to explain what I do, and I'd like to find out what you're hearing. So that was great, because I have this pool of people that just say, hey, I'm in your area, can I come and talk to you? And that's how a lot of stuff happened. And then also, you had brought up before we started recording Twitter. Twitter's been a really helpful tool in being like, hey, I'm in this area. If you're around, let's talk and let's figure it out.
To back up a little, how did you go about spreading the word? That many people knowing about it, how did they find out about it?
I was shocked. There was a point where I was going home and getting, various, from correspondence and interactions with blogs and radio and stuff like that, I was getting, between 100 and 200 emails a day. That was a new situation for me. Like, I achieved, at least for a very, very short period of time, a micro fame that I hadn't anticipated. I just reached out to bloggers who I knew would be supportive, and other people who I've worked in magazines in the past, and contacts through there. And I met Zay Frank, who's a sort of an internet celebrity, being a daily video blogger, one of the first daily video bloggers, on a train in Brooklyn a year ago. So I emailed him and was like, remember when I met you in a train? Can you please post this on your blog? And that day was a huge day of contacts. So I just reached out to people to tastemakers, I guess, and asked them to make this part of the taste.
So really using the tools of your generation.
Yes, exactly. Which to be self-critical and to be critical of that method, you really limit the sort of groups and people that you're talking to. There's a lot of talk about first adopters or early adopters with communications technology, especially. And these are people who 6 months to a year before these technologies get used by a lot of people, these are the first people who use them. But it's also a very specific class of people. I don't just mean that in sort of like a socioeconomic way. I just mean it's like a very they're typically uncritical of this methodology, because they're the first people who use it.
Right.
So in my continued study after this, I'm going to make more of an effort to reach out to communities that would not inherently be using the technology.